The average ancient human did not die at 30, even though that exact number shows up in textbooks, documentaries, and countless conversations. It doesn't mean a healthy 30-year-old simply reached some biological deadline and quietly stopped functioning. It means something far more brutal. Babies died, a great many of them. Picture 10 people born into the same ancient community. Several die in infancy or early childhood. One dies from a simple infected cut at 23. Another survives childbirth multiple times and lives to 50. 2 others live well into their 60s. And one becomes the irritating 70-year-old who remembers every root and every old argument in perfect detail. Average all those deaths together, and the number lands somewhere near 30. But no single person in that story actually died at the average. The number is mathematically correct, and emotionally completely misleading. So at what age did most ancient humans actually die? The uncomfortable answer is that death gathered heavily at both ends of life. The most dangerous years were almost always the very first ones. Survive childhood, and the odds improve dramatically from that point forward. Reach adulthood, and dying in your 30s was possible, but it was never the normal expected schedule. Among well-studied hunter-gatherer populations, the most common age of adult death often fell in the late 60s or early 70s. Ancient life wasn't short because everyone aged out at 30. It was short because reaching old age was never guaranteed in the first place. Let's break this down properly, starting with 3 numbers people constantly confuse. Life expectancy at birth is simply the average years a newborn would live under that population's mortality conditions. Lifespan is how long an individual actually lives, or the maximum age a species can reach. And the modal age at death is simply where deaths cluster most heavily, the true peak. If infant mortality is severe, life expectancy at birth drops low even when adults regularly reach their 60s. Modern societies concentrate death heavily at older ages. Ancient societies spread it across the entire life course, with a brutal amount of that risk sitting right at the very beginning of life. Take 2 siblings. One dies at age 2, the other reaches 70. Their average age at death is 36. Neither sibling actually died at 36. Now expand that same math across an entire community, and the average can settle in the low 30s. While describing almost nobody's actual real experience. Research across small-scale hunter-gatherer populations placed average life expectancy at birth broadly in the low 30s. That's the real origin of the famous number everyone repeats. But once childhood mortality was separated from adult mortality, something very different appeared. Roughly 60% of newborns survived to age 15 across these studied populations. And the modal age of adult death was about 72, ranging from the high 60s to high 70s. This doesn't mean every prehistoric population followed the exact same curve. Modern hunter-gatherers aren't prehistoric fossils wearing contemporary clothing. They live within modern political systems, markets, medicine, and environmental pressures ancient people never faced. But the comparison still destroys the cartoon version of prehistoric death. Human bodies did not evolve to simply collapse at 30. Our species carries a real biological capacity for long adult life, predating hospitals and modern medicine entirely. The real danger filter came much earlier, starting with birth itself. Human childbirth is unusually difficult, largely due to large infant heads passing through a tightly constrained birth canal. Without surgery, blood transfusion, antibiotics, or emergency care, birth complications could turn fatal very quickly. Ancient people had real skill here. Experienced attendants, positioning techniques, and knowledge built through generations. But they still lacked solutions for several emergencies modern medicine now treats routinely. A birth could end in 2 deaths before either person was ever properly recorded. Then came the first month of life, an especially fragile window. Newborns had immature immune systems and almost no ability to compensate when something went wrong. A mild infection in an adult could quickly overwhelm a fragile newborn body. Diarrhea, feeding difficulties, and cold nights all carried disproportionate danger for such small bodies. The child was loved deeply. The future was simply never promised. Infancy remained dangerous well beyond the newborn period too. Respiratory infections, contaminated water, parasites, burns, and animal bites all posed constant risk. Weaning created another especially vulnerable transition period. As children ate more shared food, they encountered new pathogens through hands, soil, water, and other people, and a new pregnancy or food shortage could reduce available breast milk at exactly the same time. Meanwhile, growing mobility meant toddlers found endless new ways to make supervision feel impossible. This is why the overall mortality curve was often shaped like a U, high risk at the start, safer in the middle, rising again with age. Once someone reached adolescence, their expected future changed dramatically. Across major comparative studies, a 15-year-old could expect, on average, to live into their early or middle 50s. That still sounds young by modern standards, but remember, this average blends deaths at 20, 30, and 40, alongside those reaching 70 or beyond. The adult mode tells the other half of this story, roughly 72. Not the average age of every adult. The age around which adult deaths became most concentrated after early hazards were survived. People in their 60s existed. Some reached their 70s. A smaller number even reached their 80s. Old age was uncommon compared to today, but it was never impossible or supernatural. This long adult life actually distinguishes humans from other great apes. Wild chimpanzees rarely reach the ages humans can achieve, even without any modern medicine at all. Human longevity appears shaped by cooperation, food sharing, and the value older people continued providing after their physical peak. A 55-year-old hunter may run slower than someone half their age, but they might remember exactly where animals move during a rare drought, or which neighboring group can be trusted. The younger person has stronger legs. The older person remembers the funeral, and everything that came before it. Older adults gathered food, made tools, cared for children, and preserved knowledge across generations. Grandmothers in particular became central to theories explaining human longevity itself. So if older people really existed, why do prehistoric skeletons so often seem to look young? Because skeletons are difficult witnesses. They don't arrive with birth certificates attached. Age is estimated from teeth, joints, and bone degeneration, which vary enormously between individuals. After roughly 50 or 60, these traditional aging methods often become especially imprecise. Older adults frequently got compressed into broad categories, effectively hiding true elderly individuals within the data. Newer research methods have since recovered far more older individuals than earlier studies ever detected. Preservation adds another filter entirely. Infant bones are small, fragile, and decay easily. Mobile hunter-gatherers didn't place every person inside a formal cemetery either. The archaeological population is only a small, selective fraction of everyone who actually lived and died. So what actually killed most adults before modern medicine existed? Infectious disease was likely the largest category. A simple cut could turn fatal without antibiotics. Accidents mattered too. Hunting injuries, falls, drownings, and burns all carried real, constant risk. Violence varied enormously by community and period. Some groups peaceful for generations, others facing real conflict. And when farming eventually arrived, health didn't automatically improve. Crowding and narrower diets often made things worse at first. So ancient humans didn't simply die because they reached 30. They died because something happened. At 3, at 23, at 47, or at 70. The tragedy was never that old age didn't exist. It was that reaching it was never guaranteed.